We have a good one for you.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Michelle, can you settle, honey?
No, you're okay.
No, you're fine. Settle. It's just because she knows that we're going to be doing this for like 30 minutes.
Open up, you open up.
Hi guys, I'm Hannah,
I'm Sadie.
and we're not straight.
We got a good one for you.
Yeah, this is something that we've talked about a ton,
Yes.
and that we haven't really talked about on our channel,
Right.
but was prompted a lot by comments we've gotten from you guys and from watching the Happiest season, which we referenced last video.
But before we get into it, we wanted to make a quick shout out about our bookshop.
Yes. I have a little bit of a break from school coming up, so I'm already thinking about all the books that I want to read over the holidays. Another reason might be you're buying a book for someone else for the holidays. Either way, our bookshop link is in the description below. It's a really great way to support independent bookstores instead of some of the names that you might think of first when you think about buying books. So, give that a look-see.
Yeah.
Give that a look-see. I think I said that last time. Anyway.
Let's see.
Let's just have a little look-see. Okay, anyway. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So first, spoiler alerts. Just in general about the
Yes.
Happiest season. So, yeah. We watched the Happiest season, and personally, just my personal review, I feel like slightly more than neutral in terms of like overall opinion of the movie.
Yes, I think I'd agree. I think it was entertaining. Like, I'm glad that I spent the time watching it because I got something out of it. And it wasn't entirely predictable, which I appreciated.
It was not, yeah. There were some parts that were largely predictable.
Yes.
Couple of things that I loved. Kristen Stewart. That's it.
Dan Levy.
Dan Levy. Love Dan Levy. So funny.
So
He
good.
has such a heartwarming scene that's like feels so personal and so real.
Yeah.
He talks about coming out, and the way that he talks about it is like simple but profound and so relatable.
Yeah.
Things that I didn't love about it were Harper.
I was mad at her the whole time,
Yeah,
and
I
I
didn't
never
like her.
really got over it.
I didn't like her family. I didn't like how they treated Jane. I don't know. I just didn't like them.
I think for me to really get invested, there have to be ups and downs to every character. That's why I think I love The Office so much.
That's true. There
Like-
were just like some characters that you just like you never get on board with. You're like, there's no
There's
reason for
nothing
me to be
for me.
invested with you.
Yeah.
In you.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our review. If you want us to go deeper into that, leave us a comment. I have a lot of complex and intersectional opinions.
Yes.
What we kind of wanted to talk about was the main storyline is Abby and Harper are dating. They're in a lesbian relationship, and they are going to see Harper's family for the holidays. And Harper's family doesn't know that she's gay, and she doesn't want to tell them. She doesn't want to be out.
Yes.
So they think that Abby is her roommate.
So if you're in any sort of similar situation as either Harper or Abby, you've come to the right place. We're going to talk a lot about navigating that and how to communicate with your partner about it. But other situations that would apply for this video, if you are introducing a new person, queer person, to your like set of friends, if you just came out of the closet and not everyone's on board about it.
Yeah. Or if you are in a family that is like hosting or meeting virtually or on the phone, someone in your family's significant other who is in a queer relationship, or if you are like hosting them for an event.
Yeah. This video is for you.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that pretty much covers literally everyone. So if you're a person watching this video, just keep watching.
Yes. Okay, so we also are talking about this because we have personal experience with this from both sides of the coin. So a lot of what we say is going to come from our own experience.
Yeah.
And I'm still working on this. I think you're still working on this as
for
well.
Sure.
The number one thing, which we say always, but is especially true in this scenario, is to communicate about your feelings. But I want to preface that by saying it helps a lot to know your own feelings first. So number one, like maybe spend some time figuring out your own perspective, what's important to you, and what your own boundaries are. And that can be something that you're saying out loud and trying to figure out through conversation with a partner if you're kind of a verbal processor like Sadie is. I'm not, and often I wouldn't be able to tell you what I need or what I want if I don't intentionally spend the time to figure it out. So in past relationships, I've gone into meeting the partner's family, male or female partner's family, thinking I just want them to like me. I want to be easy to be around. I don't want to like ruffle any feathers, and I just want to fit into the family dynamic, right? But in a scenario like this, if you are maybe your partner's first queer boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, it feels totally different. It can feel scarier. There's all this pressure to, I don't know, you feel like you have to represent like on behalf of all queer people.
I think also going into, if you're not the person like meeting the other person's family or whatever, if you're going to visit your own family or talking with your own family or introducing something to your own family, it also is super necessary to figure out your own boundaries and figure out what your goals are for having a conversation or in doing this sort of introduction. And I think what is so important is to center your relationship and yourself and your partner, because it can be really easy to get caught up in the expectations that other people have and feeling like you're representing a whole queer community, when in reality what you're representing is yourself. And if you're in a relationship with someone, you should also be thinking about your relationship and centering yourself and the relationship, and the other person should be thinking about centering themselves and the relationship, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's not the first thing you're thinking of. Like, I think often there's so much else around it. Like I was saying, like you're just kind of trying to fit in unnoticed, and that can lead to like disaster, as it did in the Happiest season.
Yes.
Like, because it felt like Harper hadn't really considered Abby before she brought her. I mean, it was the opposite. She had completely ignored Abby's potential feelings.
Right. She was thinking about herself and her relationship with her family instead of herself and her relationship with Abby.
Right.
So she was like, if you can just act like this, and be okay with it and just roll with it, it's just a few days. And what happened was just Abby feeling so isolated and so unwanted and so like disconnected.
Yeah, and part of that is that Abby didn't say like, I'm unwilling to do that. She didn't say like, these are my boundaries, and if you cross them, I'm not interested in staying. And instead, she waited until she was so far, it was like unrecognizable anymore. Her relationship was unrecognizable, and she was like, I have to leave.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of scenario that we would love to avoid.
Yeah. And you can see throughout the film that Harper is like, no, I want you to be here. She's saying that, but she's not doing anything to demonstrate it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she's not acting like that. She's like, I just want to keep the peace.
Yeah, and she might want Abby there. She does want Abby there. She loves Abby.
I think she does want Abby there.
But not as badly as she wants to keep the peace.
Yeah.
You're right. So what that might look for you, if you're trying to figure out what your boundaries are, you might say like, sure, I'm willing to be your friend for this trip, but I'm allowed to change my mind. Like, I'm allowed to get overwhelmed. I'm allowed to need time with just the two of us. Like, you could say, I'll be your roommate, but we're going to need to have, like, nights off. Like, I would rather stay in a hotel so that we can go home and I can get space and distance. Or you could say, like, it would make me feel really good if we had a plan for you to come out to your family. Like, Abby knew that she was going to come out to her family just after the holidays, but it felt really nebulous. It wasn't, it was like, I'll do it. It was like, just later. It was not believable.
It wasn't, And I think in the movie also, Harper talks so much about her family's image and her dad, running for public office and needing to maintain a certain image. And And in explaining her need to wait to come out until after the holidays, she was saying, Abby, you are outside of that. You are not, you can't fit into that. And if you do anything to disrupt that, you're disrupting everything in my family. You're disrupting my whole family's like dynamic, my dad's ability to get elected, my relationship with my family. And that's not on Abby.
Right.
That's not her, it's not her responsibility. So I think another thing would be to say, like, what I have control over is myself and my actions. I don't have control over, like in this case, your dad getting elected. That's not on me. And just making sure that like that we're not like projecting other scenarios or other circumstances onto a person who when it boils down to like the bare bones of it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. So in conclusion, keeping focused on your own needs and the needs of your relationship, setting boundaries for yourself, and let's jump into communicating about those boundaries.
Yeah.
So that can be really scary also. And I was not good at this for a long time. I think it's really hard to open that conversation with your partner, and there's a lot of fear around that. Like saying, I need you to hear me before we do this, and it's not, it feels like I'm putting my foot down.
Yes. I think that's what we're afraid of.
Yeah.
We're afraid of saying like if Abby had said, I'm not going to come home with you because I don't feel comfortable, it's kind of like the idea of an ultimatum. When that's not really what it is. That's just having boundaries and respecting those for yourself.
Yeah, it's like me or your family. And like
that isn't the case.
That's not real.
But we often feel like that is.
Yeah, I think it's because people think that their partner has made up their mind about their family. So if you say, I'm unwilling to do it this way, you either have to pick me or your family. It's like, no, you have to pick a way for us to coexist where it is okay to coexist. So there has to be flexibility in the way people communicate with their family.
Yes. I also think that I am still learning about how to communicate about my boundaries and my like what motivates me, I think, is also a big topic of conversation that we don't often talk about. I think that in the past I have created scenarios in my head like if we do this will happen. And so instead of telling Hannah, in my head, I'm thinking, if we do this, then this is going to happen. I just go to point C where I'm like, therefore, we have to blah, blah, blah. And I don't communicate the first part. And I never, share what makes me feel a certain way. I just say like, no, we can't do that. Or like, oh, we have to,
Yeah. And, sorry.
I was just going to say, and like, I feel like Harper was similar in this movie. She's like, my family can't handle you being my girlfriend, so you just have to be my roommate. And she doesn't talk about any of her emotions. She doesn't share any of her perspective. She just says, that's how it is. And if she were to communicate, my family has really conservative values, and I really value my relationship with my mom, or I really care about how my family sees me, and that's something that I'm working on. Oh my God, you are so fucking dramatic. I can't handle it. I think what she does instead is centers her family's feelings and abandons thinking about Abby's feelings.
Yeah, so I feel like that was a game changer for the way we communicated too. I think it's a harder sell for someone to say, like, they're going to be upset, so yeah, we shouldn't do it. And a different message is, like, they're going to be upset and they're going to come to me about it, and that's going to be really hard for me to handle. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to, like, put a lot of strain on me and on our relationship. And that, like, when you kind of switch the way you communicated to that, I was like, oh, well, that I can understand, and that I'm totally willing to, like, consider and make sacrifices for, because I don't want that extra stress on you.
I think also, like, saying, my friends don't know I'm gay and I'm not ready to come out to them yet, which was another scenario in this movie. And instead of saying they can't know or they don't like gay people or whatever, something about them, saying I'm not ready to be out. and I need some time, and I know that that's hard for you, but I'm not prepared for this, and I haven't really thought about it, and I'm working on it, and if we could keep talking about it, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are, I mean, you have always been like so patient with me, like doing those kind of things, and being understanding of where I'm at and what I feel like I can handle emotionally. But saying, like, putting someone else's emotions at the forefront and saying, like, oh, this person's going to be really upset. Like, your partner's like, I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah.
I don't know them.
That doesn't
mean anything to me.
Yeah.
But I think we do that because we're like, I'm just trying to be a nice person. I'm trying to be considerate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And what is considerate is prioritizing the person that you love and you really care about, you know?
Yeah, especially if you want this to be a long-term relationship, which presumably you do if you're meeting their friends and family.
Yeah.
But another thing to note here is that it is a negotiation. Mm-hmm. And it is something that can go back and forth on. So if your partner comes to you and says, like, I'm not ready to be out yet, it's also entirely within your right to say, then I don't think I'm ready to meet them. Like, I can't be closeted again.
Yeah.
And that's your right. That's my right as well.
For sure, yeah.
To be able to say that. But that has to be something that's communicated.
Mm-hmm.
And that shouldn't be something that's, like, withheld or tamped down until it's too late.
Or until you're, like, in front of them and, like, yeah, we're together. No, we're not. Like, ooh, yikes.
Yeah, that's something that should be communicated about before.
Yeah.
And also, this kind of brings us to something else we wanted to talk about. This communication doesn't just happen before, it should happen the whole way through.
Yeah.
So if your mind changes and you're like, I can't do this, tell your partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the Happiest season, Abby decides that she's going to leave because of how she's being regarded. And I think she does that a little bit too late for her own emotional safety.
Yeah.
But when she does that, I think it triggers that response in Harper, and she's like, oh shit, you were for real. You know, like, we didn't talk about this much.
Yeah. And I think that if she had said sooner, like, hey, I can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. When she started to realize how bad it was, that could have been avoided.
Yeah.
Because then it blew up at the end. And it was like this chain of events that once they had each reached their breaking point, it was too late.
Yeah. I think ultimately, the reason we think this is so important is that it is so profoundly valuable to have these conversations with someone you care about, someone you're in a relationship with. Mm-hmm. Because even, I think we oftentimes do a little bit extra, like we try and be a little bit extra considerate and extra patient with people we love and care about, because we love and care about them. But when we don't communicate what we're doing or what we feel like we're doing, you know, if we're like, yeah, I'll go with it. I don't feel comfortable with it, but I'll go with it for you. And we don't say that we don't feel comfortable with it. We're kind of like holding back and like creating space for resentment or for feeling isolated or for feeling really disconnected. And that's going to be bad for your relationship.
In the long run.
Yeah.
If you're making all of these sacrifices that your partner doesn't even know about.
Yeah. And if you're asking your partner to make sacrifices for you and be like, you just need to do this for me because this is what I need, or this is what my mom needs, or my friends need, or my cousin needs, or whatever, you don't actually talk to them and hear what they need, like, how do you expect to be able to care for their needs holistically, like, in the future, you know, in an understanding way and with, like, open communication?
Totally agree.
Rhetorical question.
Yeah, I think that that's really important for us, and it's
Yeah.
something that we work on all the time.
I think something that we just talked about that we both are still kind of struggling with is stating our needs ahead of time, or like sharing our needs in the moment. I think that's the hardest part, honestly.
I think so too. It can be hard to like pull your partner away if they're sucked back into the family dynamic. Sometimes it seems like when you go home, even if you're 30, you become 16 again. Like,
yeah,
why is that universal?
Like with your high school friends or like old friends, you know, like you kind of just like jump back into like whatever was happening then.
Yeah, so that can be actually a really powerful piece to talk about with your partner. And you've talked about that with me. Like, it seems like when you're around your siblings, you become like one like a one-track mind. You're so excited to be with them, you can't think about anything else. It's like if your partner becomes someone else than who you're used to, that can be helpful context. Like when you said that to me, I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I do get extra excited and overwhelmed, and I do kind of go to a different space. It's like I lose my headspace.
I think there's a song about this. It's called Complicated by Avril Lavigne. I think, so another thing that we just talked about was the fact that like we often feel really scared to bring it up to the other person because we don't want, because family or friends or like anybody you have like a really deep relationship with, it's hard to make a critique on that or how your partner is acting with those people or you know what you're observing without feeling like you're projecting or you're judging them. And you don't have to judge them. You don't have to say like, oh well, you turn into a huge bitch when you're with these people. Like you don't have to make that judgment, but you can say, hey, I noticed that you like do this thing when you're with your friends, and I'm bringing it up because it makes me feel comfortable, makes me feel uncomfortable, and this is why. Yeah. That's just making an observation. It's not making a judgment. Yeah. And you don't have to like call names. Sorry.
And Abby never says that to Harper.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think Harper didn't even know that it was happening. Right? And I think that can be like a snap out of it moment. If you're like, whoa, no one's ever said that to me before because, I don't know, no one's ever cared enough to. That feels like the ultimate form of like care. Yeah. To trust that communication is going to go okay.
Yeah, to know that your relationship is bigger than that conversation.
Yeah. So, I know that was a bit rambling.
I mean, this felt relevant after hearing a lot of people's coming out stories or you know, hesitations with coming out to families as a result of our last video. So thank you guys so much for sharing. And hopefully if you are having these sort of meetings, whether it's on the phone or in person or over Zoom or whatever, I hope that this can be helpful. It would have been really helpful for us, I think, to have thought about all of this before talking to literally anyone in our lives.
Yeah, I think we had a couple like missed tries and missed opportunities for us to get to where we are.
Yes.
But anyway, so we hope it was helpful for you. Shell has about run out of patience, so we're gonna have to go.
All right.
See you next time.
Bye.